Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. 2024 towards the end and also the start of 2025 seems to be the massive rise of illustration rares from Scarlet and Violet era. In this video, we're going to answer a few questions. One, can they be stopped? Two, why have they been popping off so much? And three, what impact will it have on Pokemon card collectors and investors of singles and also collectors and investors of sealed product? That's what we're going to address in today's video. Before we jump into it though, I thought I'd give some examples because to just say illustration rares have been popping off, if you're new to the hobby, you might not have realized that, illustration rares were quite stagnant, particularly, base set ones and Obsidian Flames illustration rares when they first come out. And even sets like Shrouded Fable when it was released. And we're starting to get massive increases in raw prices, almost like unsustainable increases in raw prices. We're not getting just 25, 30, 40% increases in prices. In some cases, we're seeing 100% increases in prices or 200% increases in prices. So illustration rares have been doubling or tripling over the last, 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. It's been absolutely bonkers. So I thought I'd back this up with a few PSA 10 examples, starting with Ghastly from Temporal Forces. $403 PSA 10 sale. There are 1,879 copies. The second example, which is now the most expensive raw hit from Paradox Rift, and that is the Groudon, $499 US, 2,079 copies in a PSA 10 though. And a little bit of a left field one, Scarlet and Violet based Drowsy in a PSA 10, going for $580. There are only 308 copies of that card, so not many copies at all. And the big dog from Paldea Evolved, Magikarp, $1,449, so nudging $1,500 US in a PSA 10. There are only, I shouldn't say only because there's a few, but in comparison to how many have been graded, 1,843 copies of that card. So there are 4 examples of what I mean by illustration rares in PSA 10 and raw prices as well, just absolutely popping off. The big question is though, why? Before we get into the why, I just wanted to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, which is PokeNotify. This is a Discord. I'll leave all the links in the description so you can join up. I'll also leave a 25% off code for people that want to join, I suppose as a recommendation from myself. This Discord is a place where you can pick up some product. It'll give you drops on product, whether you're in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, Europe, UK, it doesn't matter where you are. If there's Pokemon product being dropped, it gives you the opportunity to purchase it online. We all know how difficult it is to get Pokemon card product at the moment. And there's also a really, really good community on there of like-minded people that you can have conversations with about product. So again, all of that will be in the description. Back onto the video. There has been a crazy bull market, hasn't there? We've seen a high percentage of growth, almost an unreasonable percentage of growth on illustration rares, to the point where a lot of them are outperforming, or most of them are outperforming special illustration rares. Why? I think there's a few reasons for this, and I'm going to get into them now. Number one is, I think it is to do, or one of the reasons is to do with the difficulty to grade. We all know they're difficult to grade a Gem Mint 10, and whether that's to do with that flat foil sort of surface, whether it's just to do with overall bad print quality from Scarlet and Violet, either way, they're not easy to grade. And probably the best example of that is a card like Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. It has like a 21% gem rate. So if there's 1,843 copies in a PSA 10, 5 times that many have been sent off to be graded. So there's probably like 9,000 opportunities there that have been sent off to be graded, and only 1,843 have returned as a PSA 10. So the difficulty to grade a Gem Mint 10, what that does is it exacerbates, or percentage-wise, it massively increases the difference between a raw price and a PSA 10 price. To put that in perspective, Magikarp's just over a $200 US raw card. But in a PSA 10, there you go, the sold example, 1,449. And there's better and bigger examples than that. Like there's some examples from Obsidian Flames, for argument's sake, which seems to have copped the incredible bad print quality that Paldea Evolved copped as well. There's some examples from there, cards like, I think, the Scizor from Obsidian Flames, the Ninetales from Obsidian Flames, that are relatively cheap raw cards, although they've seen some massive growth. But like 8xing or 7xing from a raw copy to a PSA 10 copy. I think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing a massive increase or, upward pressure put on these cards because people see them as a good grading play. And if people see them as a good grading play, it means they're buying it. You've got to buy them to be able to grade them, don't you? So people are spending mass money to buy up as many as they possibly can to send off to get graded, because if 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 or 40 out of 100 or 30 out of 100 return as a PSA 10, there can be money to be made. And if there's one thing we know about this hobby, if there's money to be made in one little segment of it, people will do it. And I think that's one of the main reasons illustration rares are getting shown so much love at the moment. They're so difficult to grade a gem mint. That exacerbates the raw price, but it also adds fuel to the fire and really puts upward pressure on the PSA 10 price because of how rare they are as a percentage of everything else that's been sent off to be graded for that card. The second reason, and this is probably just more I suppose, blasé reason. There's no rhyme or reason or data behind it, but they've just got amazing artwork, don't they? Like, you got to sit back, that drowsy for argument's sake. You got to sit back and go, hats off. The artists, or the artists, I should say, that are producing all these amazing illustration rares have done such a phenomenal job. It's a real shame that some of them don't have that texture that special illustration rares have, because I think it would just absolutely pop them off even more. But having said that, the artwork is just phenomenal, and there's so many examples of it. And if you look throughout all the sets, they're just awesome. I think they've done, and I've said all along, the artists throughout Scarlet and Violet era have done such a phenomenal job. I said it from the get-go when there wasn't much love for Scarlet and Violet, and even I was still hung up badly on Sword and Shield, but I said it all along, the artwork is phenomenal. You can't knock the artwork. I wish they would have done a couple more things. Like I said all along, Paldea Evolved, I wish they'd done a special illustration rare Gyarados. That would have made this B+ set into at least an A+ set, in my opinion, because it's so on the verge of being such a phenomenal Pokemon card set. It's just missing a few things. I've said all along, Paradox Rift and Temporal Forces. We got the Groudon in Paradox Rift. Why don't we get like a Kyogre in Temporal Forces? Either way, we can't knock how amazing the artwork's been. And I think that's probably the second main reason why these illustration rares have been popping off. Because essentially, what are you doing? You're collecting. And if you're collecting, you care about the artwork. The artwork is essentially the aesthetic of the card and how it looks, and that adds to the collectability of it. If it was just a blank piece of cardboard, you wouldn't collect it. But because of the artwork inside it, that's what eggs people on and wants them to, makes them want to get it, essentially. Number 3, I think it's pull rates. I think this has a little bit to do with it as well. The pull rates for illustration rares, in some cases, are incredibly tough because, yes, you might have 1 in 25 or 1 in 30 packs or 1 in 32 packs to pull an illustration rare, but when you've got sets with such depth of illustration rares like Paldea Evolved, Paradox Rift for argument's sake, and you might have 20 plus or 30 plus illustration rares, you multiply that by 1 in 32 packs. So to pull any individual illustration rare, it might take you 600 packs. And then this ties in nicely with the difficulty to grade process. If 1 in 5 are grading a 10, that might mean that 600 packs times 5, which is 3,000, you might need to open 5,000 packs just for the opportunity to pull a PSA 10. It's 3,000 packs to pull a PSA 10. It's insane how difficult they are to grade, and it's insane in a lot of cases how difficult the pull rates are to pull an individual illustration rare. And I think the fourth and final point as to why we're seeing such growth in them is the massive demand moving into Scarlet and Violet era. And look, this is coming from a lot of sources. The Scarlet and Violet era is arguably getting better. Like, these sets have been better. We've had 2 absolute belters in a row in Surging Sparks and Prismatic Evolutions. We've got Journey Together around the corner, Rocket Set around the corner, a 151 style for Black and White, so Gen 4. We've seen, external forces like, Pokemon Pocket. That's a massive driver. I think if you're saying it's not, you've got your blinkers on. And then I suppose the hangover from Sword and Shield, A lot of people are starting to realize how good Scarlet and Violet is now, and they're starting to pump money towards it. So it's this massive, massive shift in demand moving into Scarlet and Violet, and people wanting to collect and display the cards and do things like making money off them, like flip them to grade them. So with all that in mind, what impact is all this going to have essentially on sealed product and singles product? I said I'm going to do a video on this, so I won't go into this part in too much detail because I'm going to do a follow-up video on it. I think some of the prices we've seen and the movements we've seen are unsustainable. Like if you get a 20, 25, 30, 40% increase in price on an illustration rare, you know, you could say it's somewhat normal growth for the Pokemon TCG hobby. When you're seeing 2, 3x the price, so 100 and 200% increases in price, you go, hold on. That's got to be a little bit unnatural. Either that card was so undervalued or there's too many people buying it, trying to flip it and grade it and make money off it. And I just feel there's a few cards that have been pumped up a little bit artificially, which we might see retrace and come back to earth a little bit. Could be completely wrong. The fuel that's on the fire could continue to burn and maybe we're just getting started, but that's the way I see it. I think there's some cards that are a bit overpriced at the moment. Now, the impact on sealed is a really simple one. We all know, and I all know, well, I've been preaching for a while to everyone that watches, you guys and girls, that total set value has a direct correlation to sealed product. Eventually, with enough time gone, the sealed product will always catch the price of the total set value. And if we're seeing increases in both PSA 10 prices for illustration rares and therefore increases in raw pricing for illustration rares, it means we're getting an increase in total set value. And if we get an increase in total set value, then it's pulling up the price of the booster box essentially. Why? Because the average you can pull from a pack is increasing. Like if you open a pack of Paldea Evolve when total set value was $500, average based on pull rates and every other bit of data in between, you know, a $5 pack or a $4 pack might have pulled you on average $1.80 worth of value. Now, if total set value's gone up and total hits have gone up, it might pull you $3 worth of value or $4 worth of value. So eventually the sealed product has to go up, I suppose, to equal out the total set value. Interesting stuff, isn't it? I can't believe how much money has pumped so quickly into Scarlet and Violet and how quickly the tables have turned, considering so many people were saying it's, you know, not the best year we've seen. But interesting stuff. Like I said, I'll do a follow-up video on illustration rares coming up. And if there's any more good pickups from Scarlet and Violet, so stay tuned for that one Tuesday. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz. Catch everyone next time. Member giveaway. Starting from the month of February 2025, I'll be doing a giveaway to a member every single month of 2025. All you need to do is become a member of the channel. I'll pick one of you essentially a month and we'll do a free giveaway. At the moment, hopefully they're going to get better and better as, you know, members increase. It's not something I've really focused on the channel. So, you know, if we can grow the members, hopefully the giveaways can get stronger and stronger. But for the month of February 2025, nice little special illustration rare from Scarlet and Violet base. Scarlet and Violet base is starting to see a little bit of growth. One of the legendaries, Koraidon EX. So nice little giveaway. We'll be going to one of you members and that's it. Member giveaway 2025.